It's your girl, Professor Cinephile. Welcome back. If this is your first time, welcome. Happy to see you. Be sure to subscribe or hit that button so that you can follow me and get updates on all of my reviews. Today, I'm going to do something a little bit different and something that I hope to do a lot more of in the future. And I'm going to do a throwback to a classic film. So up until this point, I've been doing mostly modern films that have just come out maybe within the last week or so, or maybe month or so. But now I want to talk about an old film and I want to talk about this classic because there are so many of us who are just like, did that movie really happen? Was it a fever dream? Am I like completely tripping? I know this film happened. And I'm here to make sure that you can feel confident and secure that this film happened. Today we are going to discuss Polly. Polly is Disney's first like all black live action film, right? 1989 came out. It is a cover of, well, an adaptation of the book Pollyanna, and many people had seen that movie as well. Pollyanna, all white cast or what have you. So this version of Polly is based on that similar premise, but of course there's some racial undertones in it, right? So Polly was directed and choreographed. Yes, it is a musical, honey. It was directed and choreographed by the one and only Debbie Allen. Okay, so off the rip, this is about to be super flames emoji, right? It stars Felicia Rashad, Keisha Knight Pulliam. Okay, so already we're talking Cosby Show era. We're talking about different world era. We're talking about that time where, these black actors were popping or what have you. So the story is that Polly becomes orphaned and then she goes to live with her aunt, who is pretty distant and kind of like cold, whatever. She has a lot of money though. It's given, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air type thing, but whatever. But, she takes her in because she doesn't have anywhere else to go. But Polly is, I believe, from Detroit, and she comes down and moves down to the South. And so it's really interesting because it's set in the 1950s, even though it came out in 1989. And it really makes me think about conversations we have had about the differences between how Black folks in the northern cities were living versus Black folks in the South. And, Emmett Till comes to mind and how he went from Chicago and went to the South and had a different set of like, kind of, I guess, under social understandings, right? And led to, his interactions being a little bit different. Polly is very similar in this way. She's kind of coming in with this like Detroit swag and, she's coming into the South, is a lot quieter, things like that. But she finds some, common connections with everyone. And basically, you go through this film, and it's basically her learning the people of the neighborhood. She's precocious, so she's exploring a lot. She makes some friends, she hangs out with them, and she meddles in everybody's business. Let's just call it what it is. Polly nosy as hell. She's a sweetheart, though. She's bringing really positive energy to try to help people along their journeys, but she's nosy and she gets in everybody's business. You've got Vanessa Bell Calloway is in this. Who else is in this? Dorian Harewood is in this. Celeste Holm, Academy Award winner. Celeste Holm for Best Supporting Actress, right? And she's the only white person in it. So just to be clear, this is an entirely black cast. Celeste Holm is she plays Miss Snow, a white woman, kind of the curmudgeon kind of loner or what have you. And they all live in this area that became separated by a bridge, right? They used to be all interracial and things like that. And then I believe like the bridge burned down and it created a separation between their communities and nobody bothered to fix the damn bridge. So they just all decided to live in this segregated kind of situation. I know it's kind of ridiculous, right? That not systemic racism that's keeping them apart, but a rickety bridge. Okay. So again, I'm always talking about spoilers. I'm not saying nothing else that you put no. Plus, when it comes to an old school film, y'all just gonna have to deal and be like, look, if you ain't see it, you ain't see it. but you need to go and see it though. So Polly has some amazingly fun musical numbers and dance numbers. Again, Debbie Allen is going to do what she do. The church scene is one of my favorite like church scenes in any film of all time. Keisha is so precious in this film, and she was young, and she was really showing that she was more than just Rudy Huxtable, right? And I thought that this came out at the right time for that because she's young. It's very easy to get typecast. I mean, even to this day, unfortunately, people still see her as Rudy Huxtable, but it's not necessarily a bad thing because it was such an iconic show, and that role is part of that, that it's okay. But this was like kind of a breakout for her to be like, I am someone else. It didn't help that she was in a film with Felicia Rashad that was being directed by Debbie Allen, who also directed some of the shows in the whole Cosby Show Different World universe. But, she did what she did. What's his name? Brandon Adams, he was in that. He was all over the place. Like he was kicking it with Michael Jackson. He was all over the place for a while. So yes, he's in this film and it is very cute. Yeah, I want you all to go see it. It happened. Polly happened. Polly was important when it came out because we're talking 1989. We're talking Reaganomics. We're talking, Black folks in America are still trying to settle into life post-war, post, civil rights movement. Like we've lost so many leaders, so many people died. Crack is ravaging our cities. Homes are, being destroyed by so many things. This war on drugs is doing more damage than the damn drugs themselves. We are at a very interesting time. People are, the conscious movement in hip hop is starting to grow. A lot of people are wearing Africa medallions and kind of going back to that. So we start seeing that popping up in films around this time as well. You see folks trying to decide, are we going to do the respectable Black person thing, or are we just going to keep it real and keep it hood? There's a lot of that tension that is playing out in films and television shows of the time. And I think that it's really important to kind of set the tone and see how this film, when it came out, again, we're talking like, this is the first time Disney is like focusing on something that is really an issue of race and has an all-Black cast, again, with the exception of Celeste Holm. And it's live action. It's like right there in our televisions. And I just remember, because Keisha and I are the same age. And so I feel like I grew up with Rudy Huxtable. And I remember just watching this and being like, oh, I had a little crush on Brandon and whatever. I was like, oh, this is so great. And then you got this scene, my sweet little angel eyes. Yeah, that was at the jam. I remember all the songs. It has a lot of Jesus in it, right? It is definitely religious, leaning towards the Christian stuff. There's a lot of like religious messaging in it. But mostly like to try to be like, God, basically God is love or whatever. We need to remember that we, are not enemies and we shouldn't be segregated and all of that kind of stuff, right? So it's coming out in the late 80s, it's talking about this period in the 50s where there is segregation, where there's a lot of tensions, and this little girl comes and solves the town's problems just by being her precocious self. That and she fell out of a tree. Okay, so she fell out of a tree, broke her leg, and then everybody's just like, "Oh my God, not Polly!" Oh my God, like the girl didn't die. She didn't get shot or anything. She fell out of a tree. Okay, so by her breaking her leg, Polly brings the whole community together. This is an amazing film. Go watch it. I think it's like got 90+% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which tells us that other people remember this film and that it's great. All right. I'm giving this 5 hearts across the board. It is one of my favorite films of all time. I cannot recommend it enough. The full movie is on YouTube. You can watch it. I'm sure it's streaming on other services, but it's on YouTube. You ain't got to pay for it. Polly, go check it out. 1989, Keisha Knight Pulliam, Felicia Rashad, directed by Debbie Allen. We need to stop sleeping on Debbie Allen as a director, by the way. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. Come back. I'd be interested in knowing what you think if you haven't seen it before.